Okay, I ended up doing some more punch work on this. Before I started, I was going to start this one. I took my phone off where I can see better. I did a couple punch flicks here because I had a balance issue, and I fluted this side because my base was wedge-shaped, and so now I have the Antler would have planed that down a little thinner the way I was going about it, so I like the general look, even though it looks sort of like a Daysite Clovis that you'd find out east. Whatever. Okay. So let's punch on this one, but first I'm going to show the difference between the Antler, and then when I punch it down with the Antler, we'll switch to this. So let's try it out. I need to get some water buffalo and section it because it's so dense, and apply some to these tips because I'm losing all kinds of energy. See how my stick is going in and I'm hitting it down, and it's got a hollow sound. I can manage it pretty well, but it'd be a lot better to cut them off shorter to get straighter and locked in. But I like to save this horn for other things, so in the meantime I've just been using this. And some of them are pretty curved, and this one is not a great horn. It's got some cracks. This thing was in the stockyard scraping and banging. And they polish up their tips of their horns really nice. And see how it sort of looks like a nasty old toenail back here? Kind of want to keep that file down on the outside. I don't know why I said that, but... So let's do some punching. Hopefully I won't cut myself. We'll go from the Antler to the buffalo. Where's my striker? Oh, there it is. This sort of needs to be dressed. I've been preferring this punch, working it better, sort of higher, floating away. So I'm having to adjust my angles. When I've got more mass here, and then I can work lower, but I'm having to get up more because of worn this bevel on it. Which is okay, but it might make it harder to see. Hopefully not. So let's try to decide what we're going to make first. We've got kind of a lot of width. Let's try to make one of those, maybe like a wind dust or something. We can do more buffalo pressure on it. I haven't ever made one of those, so I'm just going to have to wing it. Okay. I'm having to change my angles because of where the contact is on the punch. If I hit like this, it's going to be too straight in. So I'm finding a comfortable spot up on the horn, pinching a little bit. The platform, the termination, and the rippling is going to be different with the Antler. It's going to be more of a rapid thinner. Just blend in. Turning edges. Let's see, a wind dust is like a little stemmed, narrow, and then it's got a lot of pressure flaking on it. I'm probably going to make the lamest wind dust ever. But we'll go from memory, and we'll just guess and see how close we get. If you want intact flakes, I would go about it slow as speed as possible and better support, especially on this glass when flakes want to break so easy. Now we'll look at our edge, and then we can do all kinds of trimming. Let's just take a little flake right there just because. I've said this a lot of time, but if you do a lot of abrading, it's a little bit more wasteful, because then when you want to adjust and move your edges, you have to take those edges down and reposition. So this is a little bump on a little spurred platform, but it's just going to carry through and spread around that flake right there. Took down some of it. Can you guys see this? I used to say that people should learn on raw rock, because I had to learn on a lot of tough rock, and I thought it would teach you the mechanics of swimming a big billet, because you'd have to generate forces that were a lot, and so you get more accurate. But for learning some of these techniques, if you want to nap on obsidian, it's probably the way to go, because then you can figure out if you're the kind of person who learns through specific descriptions of edges and angles, then it requires a lot less force. That buffalo flake would have been shallower, different termination and different undulation. We'll probably have to do just a few more with the antler, and then we'll switch to the buffalo. Just the right braiding. See where my pinky is? The subtle changes in when you have a lean, flat edge, and if you just grind it laterally, it's gonna take a lot of energy to release the flake. So I'll try to put and this stuff is so easy to, I almost overturned that. Just see, I put just a little angle on that. This would need a tiny flake just right here. You learn the punch, just think about those small flakes. Maybe, because you can do a lot with obsidian, these little small flakes. Just get your comfortable spot on your punch right. If I make another Clovis right now, I'm going to punch myself in the face. Once I was remodeling a bathroom, I had a step ladder. I was doing finished trim on a slab, so it was like linoleum and weird angles. If anyone has done any construction, you know how that is. It's just, when things aren't square, you just kind of back in and out, in and out. And I had a hammer on a ladder, and I was carrying it out, and I forgot that the ladder out of the bathroom, I forgot my hammer was up there, and it fell off the ladder and hit me in the head. And I was working in a town where, let's put it this way, I've had to climb down and chase somebody from stealing my miter saw in between cuts of siding, that kind of situation. And the hammer hit me in the head, and I thought that I was getting randomly attacked. And I saw stars, I lost my vision temporarily, and I began absolutely doing horrendous damage to the bathroom I was remodeling, and the self-defense of obviously myself. I don't know why I'm talking about that. But, well, because I hit myself in the head. That was embarrassing. I'm glad that no one was there to see that. So let's just do a few more and then we'll get the buffalo. Sometimes establishing ridges, I just kind of go in areas like I overdid it there. I was sort of separating. was at the Stone Age Fair in Loveland, Colorado a month ago, and saw some really neat obsidian wind dust points. Okay, before we get too carried away and get a big flake and thin this down too much, let's switch. Maybe you can see subtle differences. Well, we'll just do one here where I did that. So I'm gonna put finger, get that little layer right there, so I'm just gonna support with my finger and just get a little flake there. Okay, let's switch. Should we do no, let's not do a part 2. Let's keep going. I did get the miter saw back. Ooh. Even with glasses, that abraded flake just went up under my glasses. And luckily my blink reflex kicked in. There's a platform there. I ground my tip down a little bit, so it's going to be a little different. See how thin those flakes are? Let's do some abrading and just build some contours here, just kind of. So, a little crunchy, but everything came off pretty clean. There's a distinct look to it. Go back and forth and just keep the edge oriented, and then we'll come back and do some. This is there. Oops. If I was close to finishing, I wouldn't have tried to take that flake off with the horn. Our stem width is probably need one little basal thinning flake. We want to get just slightly concave in the base, I guess, on these. We'll get to a stopping point, and then before I make this formal base, I'll look at my photos and try to get closer. Need a little flake here, and we'll need a little one here. I think you have to look at your platforms really carefully, because you can set it in an area where the punch is not going to seat. That was a little low. Go. And get underneath that rest of that, yeah. Flint napping is sometimes you do stuff that you kind of think might work and it doesn't, but you have to tighten up. The advantage of being a modern napper is you can bail and change your strategies more than that you could in the past, but if you have your mindset on what kind of point you want and the flakes you need, you can mess around trimming edges and being kind of careless, and then when it comes down to the end, you have to know that you can do it right. And when I first started napping, I realized that I had attention span for concentration, and I was hitting walls at certain stages, and so I had to build up my time that I could nap. So it took so much concentration just to make Vi faces that I'd look at the clock and say, it's 45 minutes, and I was getting that feeling like, things are going to go bad at any time. I would just stop, and then I'd build up to being able to nap for an hour and then a little bit more. I've got a possible platform right there. See how the edge goes up there? If I put the punch there, it's going to be a little tricky, so try to just take that little bitty flake right there. And I can get one there. Okay, I don't think it looks like a wind dust yet. But I've got a good body to do pressure. So we'll clean this up. We'll turn it off. I'll look at my phone and try to put myself in a different state of mind. Napping is habitual, and training yourself to... When I work on like a big wide bite face, like a Thebes preform, I turn a switch, and I start using corners and basal thinning early in different ways and being aggressive in certain ways, and it's hard to do a whole lot of different points and have that many, but you can sort of combine them. You see similar strategies. The point types don't have to be similar for your mindset to approach it with a certain amount of force and, you know, like I said, where you go about thinning from the base, how you thicken your edges, where you decide you're going to lose a bunch of width, and things like that. We have that little rise right there, and my platform is a little too broad. I might be able to isolate that and navigate that, because Buffalo is great at going through flat surfaces and carrying. So let's see if we can't do that. It's a little heavy still. I love these point types too. They weren't sitting down and making the whole thing. Now that's lean enough. That ought to be right. You know, they're working on them gradually. A lot of times. See, I decided to use the support there. If I had just gone about that and trimmed that flake and didn't decide to make that platform right and give it a little bit of extra support here, then I would have had a width issue here, because that flake wouldn't have gone there. But it did, and I like the Buffalo because I'm keeping thickness. So maybe let's try one little nice little oblique one down here through this thickness. I need to make a little smaller tip so that I can do more trimming. Trimming with the punch should get in there. With the right support and doing controlled peeling flakes that are narrow, then you need ridges. And a strategy to punch narrow patterns that are oblique, one, don't have it where the flake is going to wrap, don't have a lot of aggressive support there, because then the flake is going to expand to your finger. And you can do a strategy where you take a little flake and then you skip over, right? So you get one started and you skip over, and then you can create that ridge and then you come back. And so you can alternate that. And I thought too about making a little clip, like a little clothespin kind of thing, except for something that's going to come in there and pinch the edge there, and then try to stop those flakes, try to step them if I want to be more aggressive, and then pull that off, and then you can just do some retouch. I thought that might be a cool idea. See how nice that flake did narrow and went to there. An antler flake would not do that and just take out that small of an area. An antler flake would have been a little deeper. Mostly because I can get pretty low on the compression of the tip, and the compressive forces enables you to take some really thin flakes. Okay, let me examine my book, and then I think my thickness is pretty good. I'm going to have to do a lot of pressure. Maybe I can show the pressure on that too. The subtle undulations of these flakes it's hard to describe, but it's definitely different than antler. Signatures are going to be in the, in the platforms, and the antler is going to overlap with buffalo, but in a large enough set, they ought to be discrete, right? Or at least probability ought to be. Not that it matters, whatever. But okay,